Good afternoon. My name is Stacy Stewart. I am the U.S. President for United Way Worldwide. And I remember very clearly the first time I ever met Ann Mosle. It was about 10 years ago, and I was the president and CEO at the time of the Fannie Mae Foundation. And there was a member of my team, a guy by the name of Greg Taylor, who eventually later on became a colleague of Ann's at the Kellogg Foundation. But he was on my team at the Fannie Mae Foundation at the time, and I remember sitting in my office, and Greg came in, and he plopped down on a chair, and he said, "I need to talk to you about something. I want to talk to you about this woman named Ann Mosle." And he said, "You got to meet this woman. They're really doing some amazing things, and she has this incredible vision of what she wants to do in Washington. I think you'd be really interested in it." So I really liked Greg, and I just said, "Okay, that sounds good. So let me find a way to meet her." And I did have a chance to meet her. And what I found was that exactly what Greg had said, this incredible woman with this incredible vision, was exactly what I found. We talked about making a big investment in her vision and her dreams and the vision of the Women's Foundation. And investing in the Women's Foundation is exactly what we ended up doing. In fact, the Fannie Mae Foundation and all of my team believed in Ann and the Women's Foundation so much that we invested in the foundation to the tune of $1 million. Now, a lot of you that are in this room, because I know many of you have been here many, many years, you remember that time and you know what I'm talking about. And you also remember probably the first time you met Ann, and you remember how you felt about her. And you remember how much she inspired you by her vision and her articulation and her passion about what she envisioned for women and children in Washington, D.C. Now, for those of you that are funders in the room, you know, funders love to talk about evaluation and metrics and get in the weeds about return on investment and all that good stuff. And we also know that there's this unstated sort of metric or unstated sort of thing that we also look for, which isn't really measured by, you know, evaluation consultants and things like that. And it really has to do with leadership. And there are times when there aren't evaluations and metrics to justify every investment. But there are times when there is leadership that inspires you to believe and causes you to take a bet on somebody because you believe in where they're going and you believe in where they want and what they want to achieve, and you're willing to put your money where your mouth is. And Ann, for me and the Fannie Mae Foundation, was that kind of leader. She was the kind of person who, even if she and the foundation hadn't reached the impact that it was planning to reach, we knew and we believed that it absolutely could. And we knew that Ann had the kind of leadership skill and capacity to lead the foundation where it wanted to go and to change the lives of so many women and children living in poverty. And so we invested in Ann and the Women's Foundation because we believed in her vision. We believed that it did not need to be ignored, and that so much of her work was representing worthy investments in so many organizations that were providing needed support to women and children. And even though Ann has left the day-to-day work of the Women's Foundation now many years ago, she still has remained deeply connected, deeply involved in the work of this great organization. And she still is acting on her vision to change the lives of women and children all around the country through her work now at Ascend at the Aspen Institute, and through really the legacy that she's created here at the Women's Foundation. And so for all of her energy, all of her collaboration, all of her vision, her bold, bold thinking, and her foresight, I am very proud to present Ann Mosle with a Visionary Award.
Wow. If I had any good sense, I would say thank you and leave. But I have to say, Stacy, I am just overwhelmed by your incredibly generous words, and I'm also equally overwhelmed by the generosity that I feel in this room. It's why I love the Washington Area Women's Foundation. What we heard just so wonderfully from the words from Marion and Rick and the presentation of the word to them was how we really started. And I can't think, as having the opportunity to stand in front of you here for a moment, sort of any finer feminists, humanists, or philanthropists than Rick and Marion Ballard to spend a little time with today. So thank you again to Marion and Rick for their early and longstanding leadership. A quick story about Stacy Stewart, how I met her, just to share one more part of the stories of how we all got here, and most importantly, where we're going. But I had a chance to meet Stacy, same sort of run-up, but I was with Marion in those closets, whether scrubbing 2 nickels together, bringing grantees together, but we started off as a scrappy little foundation. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to go out and engage the community through the First Portrait Project, which Nikki, under her leadership, has taken it all to a whole new, even more fabulous level. But we partner with national and local organizations to find out what was going on in this community and how could we tell a story that could make everybody feel connected and understand about what was going on in the lives of women and girls. So our largest gift probably at that time, I don't even know if we had great early support from folks like Ruby Coles at the Mariah Fund, who took bets, the Kay Fritz Foundation, Julie Rogers over at Meyer, that they just took a risk on us. But we never asked for anything big. And so Greg Taylor, sort of encouraging me up to go meet Stacy, who had just had her daughter, Maddie, said, what do you want? I said, $1 million. He said, great, I'll set the meeting up. I'm like, oh my God. I had no idea what to do. So I went and took a walk and got my hair cut. I figured we can't do any more research. We have nothing more to say on paper. We've presented an invitation, and we'll have to see where it goes. The moment when I walked into Stacy's life, not only did the Washington Area Women's Foundation get $1 million, but I got another great friend and partner. And that is a huge gift. Not only did Stacy say, we are thrilled to support the Washington Area Women's Foundation with $1 million gift, you just have to raise 2 more $1 million gifts. But I'm going to go do that with you. And so we traveled from door to door, from New York to Washington, D.C., and we raised almost $5 million for the Stepping Stones Initiative. So for that, I really thank Stacy and for all of you, because it really does show one leadership gesture, and in partnership, we can make a difference. 2 other quick thank yous I want to do, because when we think about what makes any organization successful, there are 3 key ingredients. Without question, the board and staff of the Washington Area Women's Foundation, those fabulous people that have served for the past 15 years, are all an extraordinary network and alumni that remain active. Every name that you see in that program book, if I had my way, I'd keep you here for all the stories, and they'd share stories and all that good stuff, but I get in trouble. But 2 special thank yous I want to add to the names that have been mentioned. One is to Donna Calajon, who had been a partner with me before the Washington Area Women's Foundation and at the Women's Foundation, and so many other ways. Without her leadership and support, as I had 2 kids and try to raise a foundation and a family, she was an incredibly important mentor to me, so thank you, Donna. When you're part of the Washington Area Women's Foundation, sort of titles and lines can get a little blurry because there's a lot of crossover. And so I have 3 sisters that I got from my time at the Washington Area Women's Foundation. I sort of call them my DC sisters, who I don't see enough of. But that's Lori Weinstein, Lisa Ross, and Tommy Duncan. I want to thank them for being part of the Washington Area Women's Foundation and really being my sisters in the Washington, D.C. area. Thank you, guys. The other ingredient that I think that is really important to the Washington Area Women's Foundation that has been longstanding and key to its success is the partnership relationship it has with the grantees. Humility has always been a really important part of both my personal values and I think the organization's. And it wasn't lost on us when we started our first round of grants that it was $17,500. Many of the organizations we were supporting were much larger, more sophisticated, serving more people. And many of the organizations that we were privileged to support actually mentored us. And so whether I think about the Latin American Youth Center or Mary Center and the leaders of those organizations who mentored me, whether I think about organizations like Casa of Maryland or Tahrir Justice Center that started off so grassroots and now are changing national conversations while also lives on the ground every day, the Washington Area Women's Foundation was so privileged to be part of their partnership from the get-go, and I love how that relationship continues on. Lastly, the philanthropy ingredient. All of us are philanthropists in this room, and it's just so incredible, and I think when we think about the importance of relationship and connection, that when I think about, I've mentioned some of the earlier foundations, but there are angels in this room. Stacy was probably one of my most powerful angels. There are other women here and men. But when I think about leaders like Charlotte Perret, when I think about the AOL women, back in the day I had a husband that worked out at AOL, and there's a circle of women led by Kathy Bushkin-Calvin, Catherine Borsnick, Jan Brank, a whole sort of Dulles crew that were really instrumental in the beginning of the Washington Area Women's Foundation in many ways. When I think about other leaders like Julie Jensen and Lynn Horning, sitting in Politics and Prose or other places and said, how can I be part of helping this happen? Incredibly important. When I think about other angels like Patrice Brickman, Kathy Isaacson, or Siobhan Davenport that have made so many gifts, it's incredible both personally and professionally. And then lastly, the African American Women's Giving Circle, the many Leadership Award volunteers, the Rainmakers, their leaders and founders. There are so many friends and supporters and relationships in this room that I have been blessed to be a part of, so I thank you all. So lastly, as we close this out, I just want to say one thing. 15 years later, this organization is stronger and bolder and more ready to make a bigger difference. I couldn't be more thrilled about the leadership of Nikki Gorin and Jennifer Lockwood-Shabbat and Carolyn on the board, and I know amazing things are going to happen. These are tough, complicated times, and I have to say, of all the 15 lunches I've probably attended, I might have missed one. I have to say, Sharon, I think your keynote beats them all. And that includes personal heroes like Hillary Rodham Clinton. You truly was an amazing talk, and you reminded us why we all come. Because we all see greatness in our others, and we all want to be greater than we are by ourselves, than we can be by ourselves. So I thank you. I stand like all of you to be part of the solution in supporting the Washington Area Women's Foundation and Nikki Gorin as we go the next step forward to ensure that all women and girls reach their full potential in our nation's capital, our home. Thank you.